دنیا جانتی ہے. طارق عزیز صاحب سے ایک دفعہ میری ٹیلی فون پہ بات ہوئی, میں ان کو اپنے ایک ٹیلی ویژن شو کے لیے مدعو کرنا چاہ رہی تھی کراچی, لیکن وہ نہیں آ سکے بہرحال. تو ان سے میں نے پوچھا کہ سر بڑی ایک سوال کا تو مجھے جواب دیتے, طارق عزیز کیسے بن گیا, مطلب آج تو کوئی سوچ ہی نہیں سکتا. سو انہوں نے کہا کہ اس وقت میں نے وہ کام کیا جو کوئی نہیں کر رہا تھا. اس طرح کا شوز اس زمانے میں جو شوز ہو رہے تھے وہ آپ کو بھی پتہ ہے, اسٹوڈیو 2:45 ہو رہا تھا, اسٹوڈیو 2:30 ہو رہا تھا, معین اختر شو ہو رہا تھا, یس سر نو سر ہو رہا تھا, اور بہت سارے دیگر شوز ہو رہے تھے. گفٹ دینا, لوگوں سے سوال کر کے ان کو اپریشیٹ کرنے کا کام طارق عزیز صاحب نے شروع کیا. انہوں نے کہا یہ میں نے لوگوں کو سکھانے کی میری ایک یا پاکستان ٹیلی ویژن کا ایک ویژن تھا کہ ہم لوگوں کو ایجوکیٹ بھی کریں اور ان کو پریز بھی کریں ساتھ ساتھ. اب کیا ہو رہا ہے, اس کا بالکل الگ ہو رہا ہے. آپ لوگوں کو صرف فقیر بنا رہے ہیں یا بھکاری بنا رہے ہیں. یہ لے لو موٹر بائک, یہ لے لو کپڑے, یہ لے لو فلانا,
ایجوکیٹ کرنے کی جگہ ڈانس کروا رہے ہیں,
یہ چیز
ان کا مذاق بنوا رہے ہیں.
اسی ایلیمنٹ پہ ایک کیک رکھا ہے, آپ کہہ رہے ہیں اس کیک کو آپ منہ سے کھائیں, اور وہ پورا کیک کھاتے ہوئے بندی کی شکل بگڑ گئی یا خاتون کی شکل بگڑ گئی. دیکھو میں آپ سے پھر اسی بات پہ آؤں گی, what society needs. یہ بات مجھے طارق صاحب نے کہی, نہیں سوسائٹی ابھی جو میں نے اپنی پچھلی بات کی اس بات کی نفی کرے گی, کیونکہ وہ ایک سینئر آدمی, انہوں نے بالکل مجھے صحیح سیکھ دی کہ جو دکھاؤ گے نا وہی لوگ سیکھیں گے. اگر ہم پازیٹیو چیزیں دکھانا آج سے کوئی ایک چینل شروع کر دے, مجھے بڑا افسوس ہوتا ہے کہ ہمارے پاکستانی بچے کارٹون نیٹ ورکس دیکھتے ہیں تو وہ بھی ہندی دیکھ رہے ہوتے ہیں ڈبنگز میں. ہاں ہمارے پاس ہمارے بچوں کے لیے کانٹینٹ نہیں ہے. ہم اپنے بچوں کو نہ گیمز دکھاتے ہیں, نہ انڈور گیمز کے بارے میں بتاتے ہیں, نہ آؤٹ ڈورس. ہم بچوں کے لیے کوئی کانٹینٹ جنریٹ ہی نہیں کر رہے. جس زمانے میں میں بچی تھی ہمارے پاس بڑا کانٹینٹ ہوتا تھا بھائی, ہم دیکھتے تھے, چاہے آپ اینک والے جن کا مذاق اڑاتے رہے بیٹھے ہوئے آج کے دور میں, لیکن ہم اس کو دیکھ کر بڑے ہوئے. کیم کینڈی کارٹون آتا تھا, ہمارے لیے 5 بجے کا وہ ٹائم بڑا پرائم ٹائم ہوتا تھا. ہم کہتے تھے دنیا ادھر سے ادھر ہو جائے, کیم کینڈی ضرور دیکھنا ہے ہم نے. تو ننجا ٹارٹلز اینڈ سو آن اینڈ آن, ہم دیکھتے تھے. تو آپ نے بچوں کو ریموو کر دیا, آپ نے صرف وائلنس کو دکھانا شروع کیا. تو میڈیا نے اپنا شفٹ جب چینج کیا کانٹینٹ کا, تو سوسائٹی نے بھی اس سے وہی ڈیمانڈ کرنا شروع کر دی کہ اوکے وی نیڈ مور.
میں یہاں پہ جو جتنے کڈس کنٹینٹ ہے اس کی ایٹ دا سیم ٹائم تعریف کرنا چاہوں گا. وی ہیو لیجنڈ آف مارخور, 3 بہادر گلوبلی ایوارڈز جیتے ہیں. وی ہیو دا برقع ایونجرز, ایک نئی چیز برانڈز نے شروع کی ہے کہ وہ اب اپنے برانڈ کو بچوں کو ٹارگیٹ کر کے کمانڈر سیف گارڈ ہو جاتے ہیں, اور ڈر2 آ جاتا ہے جرم سے فائٹ کرنے کے لیے, اور 10 چیزیں آ گئی ہیں. تو ایٹ دا سیم ٹائم وہ چیزیں بھی چل رہی ہیں. بٹ یہ جو آپ نے کہا نا کوئی ایک چینل, یہاں ایک چینل سے آئی ڈونٹ تھنک کہ کچھ ہوگا, کیونکہ ایک چینل جب اچھا کام کرے گا اور باقی وہی کر رہے ہیں تو اس ایک کو سائڈ لائن کر دیا جائے گا اور باقی
نیگیٹو چیزوں لوگ کتنا دیکھتے ہیں.
دیٹس دا پوائنٹ. کیونکہ اگر آپ پی ٹی وی دیکھتے ہیں تو آپ کو دکھتا ہے کہ پاکستان میں کتنی پروگرس ہو رہی ہے. اور یہی ایک میری بات پہلے ہماری بات میں رہ گئی کہ ایک سین چل رہا ہے کسی جگہ پہ XYZ جگہ پہ, اور میں چینل سوئچ کرنا شروع کرتا ہوں فرام 1 to 20. میں نے 20 ڈفرینٹ نیوز چینلز سوئچ کیے اور ایک ہی سینیریو دکھ رہا ہے اور اس کے مجھے 20 الگ اینگل دکھے. Now being a common man, I am wondering کہ اس میں سے حقیقت کیا ہے, کیونکہ 20 کے 20 لوگ مختلف بات کر رہے ہیں ڈفرینٹ اینگل سے, ڈفرینٹ پرسپیکٹو سے. کسی جو ایک چینل کسی کو ہیرو دکھا رہا ہے, ایک اسی کو ولن دکھا رہا ہے, ایک اسی کو سپورٹ کر رہا ہے, اور ایک کہہ رہا ہے کہ نہیں ان کی بات بالکل جسٹیفائڈ ہے. واٹ ٹو بلیو؟
اس پہ بھی میں آپ کو ایک واقعہ بتا دیتی ہوں. ہم بیٹھے ہوئے تھے کچھ سینئر جرنلسٹ کے ساتھ, تو انہوں نے بتایا کہ ایک وقت پاکستان میں ایسا تھا کہ ہم کہتے تھے کہ حکومت بھی ہم بناتے ہیں, حکومت بھی ہم گراتے ہیں. یہ جرنلسٹ کی اپروچ تھی. اور وہاں پر جو جرنلسٹ بیٹھے تھے وہ بڑے نامی گرامی جرنلسٹ تھے, ایسا نہیں ہے کہ وہ کوئی چھوٹے موٹے لوگ تھے. کہنے کا مقصد کیا ہے اس بات کے پیچھے, کہ جب جرنلسٹ کو اپنی پاور کا اندازہ ہے کہ وہ جو دکھائے گا لوگ اس کو ابزارب کر جائیں گے. آپ کیا ہوا یہ ہے پچھلے 20 برسوں کے دوران کہ سوسائٹی ڈیوائڈ ہو گئی.
تو یہ تو ہم نے ساری باتیں کر لی اور سارے پرابلمس کو بھی آئیڈینٹیفائی کر لیا, لیکن واٹ آر دا سولوشنز, اور وہ سولوشنز جو پریکٹیکلی امپلیمنٹ کیے جا سکتے ہیں. آئی نو اٹ از امپاسبل کہ ہم اپنی عوام کو, ان کی مینٹیلٹی کو, جتنے لوگ سب غلط کام کر رہے ہیں ان کو سدھار سکیں, بٹ کہیں سے تو سٹارٹ ہو سکتا ہے, کہیں سے تو وی کین موو این انچ ٹورڈز بیٹرمنٹ.
ایگریڈ آن دیٹ عمر, کہ دیکھیں कहते हैं कतरा कतरा दरिया बनता है, ठीक है।
हमारे तो दरिया भी सूख गए।
मसला ये है कि किसी एक को जैसे आपने कहा कि फ़र्क पैदा करना पड़ेगा या पहला स्टेप उठाना पड़ेगा, उसके लिए चाहे एंटरटेनमेंट साइड हो, चाहे न्यूज़ साइड हो, या फिर दीगर और जो जॉनराज हैं उसमें काम करने वाले लोग हों, टेलीविज़न के अलावा रेडियो का मीडियम हो, अखबार हो, या फिर डिजिटल मीडिया हो आपका, कहीं बेहतरी की शुरुआत करनी पड़ेगी। जितनी नेगेटिविटी को प्रमोट कर रहे हैं हम, अगर हम थोड़ा सा इसमें एजुकेशनल एलिमेंट ऐड कर दें तो वो नेगेटिविटी ऑटोमेटिकली बिल्कुल ख़त्म या आहिस्ता आहिस्ता उसका असर ज़ायल होना शुरू हो जाएगा। लेकिन उसमें जो बुनियादी चीज़ है, उसमें ज़रूरत है आपको पढ़े लिखे जहनों की, विजनरी लोगों की, जिनके पास जहन हो, उनको सिर्फ ये अहमियत ना हो कि मेरे कितने व्यूज़ आ गए, मेरी कितनी टीआरपी आ गई, या मैं कितना लोगों में मकबूल हूँ। उनको ये मालूम होना चाहिए कि जो वो बात बता रहे हैं या कह रहे हैं या दिखा रहे हैं टेलीविज़न पर या किसी भी मीडियम पर, उसकी अहमियत क्या है और उससे उनकी सोसाइटी की पॉजिटिविटी पे कितना बेहतर असर पड़ेगा। आई थिंक अगर कोई एक या दो भी ये शुरुआत कर देंगे तो बाकी भी सब फिर उसी लाइन पे चल पड़ेंगे, मेरा ख्याल।
राइट, वेरी वेल सेड। और इस बात को अगर मैं समराइज करूं तो आई वुड से कि जी सबसे पहले तो आप अपने आप से सवाल करें कि आप कौन हैं, आप क्या हैं, आपका ज़िंदगी में पर्पस क्या है। इंसान में उसकी इंटेग्रिटी, ऑनेस्टी बहुत ज़रूरी है, और अगर आप खुद से ऑनेस्ट नहीं हैं तो यू कैन नॉट गिव ऑनेस्टी और गिव एनीथिंग बैक टू द वर्ल्ड। तो चाहे आपका पर्सनल सक्सेस हो, बहुत ज़रूरी है, होना चाहिए, लेकिन एट द सेम टाइम जहाँ हमने स्टार्ट की थी बात रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी से, तो सबसे बड़ी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ये आती है कि आपने लोगों तक जब कोई कहानी पहुँचानी है तो आपको इस बात की श्योरिटी हासिल करनी है कि वो बात आपकी 100% करेक्ट हो, ऑथेंटिक हो, ताकि क्योंकि जब आप टीवी पे आके कोई एक बात करते हैं तो लोग बगैर उसकी तस्दीक किए दुनिया में जाके वो बात फैलाते हैं, और इस चीज़ की एडवांटेज लोग लेते हैं जो गलत काम कर रहे हैं कि आप कुछ भी बात फैलाएं और वो यूं सोसाइटी में फैल जाती है। तो एजुकेट करना हमारा बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट है, एजुकेट करने के साथ साथ सही बात बताना हमारा बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट है। वी एट ग्रेनिच यूनिवर्सिटी वी डू हैव आवर मीडिया डिपार्टमेंट, जहाँ मीडिया स्टडीज़ के अंदर यही कोशिश करते हैं कि जब हमारा बच्चा फील्ड में जाए तो वो एथिक्स, इंटेग्रिटी और किस तरह से काम होता है वो सीखे और इस मीन वर्ल्ड के अंदर सरवाइव कर सके, जहाँ पे अच्छा काम करने पे हमेशा आपको रेजिस्टेंस मिलेगी। तो इस उम्मीद के साथ आपसे इजाज़त चाहेंगे कि अगली दफ़ा मुलाकात हो तो हमारे ये जो मसाइल हैं जो हम फेस करते हैं मीडिया के अंदर नेगेटिविटी की तरफ, वो बेहतर हो। थैंक यू सो मच मैम फॉर टेकिंग आवर टाइम, एंड इंशाल्लाह फिर मुलाकात होगी।
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, आपने हमें मदद किया, बहुत
शुक्रिया। यू मोस्ट वेलकम। सो बिल्कुल आपने सुना सना हाशमी को, द सीनियर न्यूज़ प्रोड्यूसर एट GTV, ऑल्सो अ न्यूज़ एंकर, a host and a very charismatic personality, as you just heard. So until next time, Pakistan Zindabad.
Mr. Sirajuddin Aziz is an institution within himself. He is regarded as one of the leading bankers of this day and age, not only on a national level, but internationally as well. His contributions to the executive financial sectors of banking like marketing, foreign trade, corporate credit, and trading and development, to name a few, are groundbreaking. Mr. Aziz started his career in 1977 at the Bank of Credit and Commerce International. After making his mark, he moved to different professional assignments, which took him to numerous countries, such as Nigeria, Abu Dhabi, and England, where he rendered his exemplary services. Mr. Siraj is currently heading the Habib Metropolitan Bank as President and CEO. Under his unparalleled leadership, the bank has seen immense growth, with the network growing impressively in all parts of Pakistan. He is also one of the founding members of UBL and served as CEO of Bank Al-Falah, where he led the bank to sustained growth. With 406 branches in 5 countries and an HR complement of over 10,000 employees. He has vigorously promoted Pakistan as a trading partner and attracted large investments in his capacity as bank head. He has proceeded on to actively overseeing the entire spectrum of banking operations of various banks for over the last 15 years.
So you've held top positions in the banking sector. What was the one thing that made you choose this sector, and why do you keep going on in it?
To be honest, I did not select banking as a profession. I went there accidentally, in the sense that everybody from my class while we were at the university were applying for a classified ad response in the Daily Dawn. And from one interview to the other, it was a journey, and suddenly I decided to plunge into banking. The fact that I have clung to it is the fact that I realized over the period of time that I spent there that banking is not about money, banking is not about economics, banking is about people, and people interest me.
So in your book, Bitter and Sweet, you've wrote that you gave meaning to your father's life. How was that?
The book that you're mentioning is actually an autobiography of my father. I have only put in an afterword and I've called it my book. It's essentially largely written by him. The fact that my child gives a meaning to my life today is the same fact that I narrated that I gave meaning to my parents. And that meaning became more pronounced and more important in his life because I lost my mother at a very young age. So I was his motivating factor to go on with life. That's why I mentioned to him that I gave meaning to his life.
And other than that, you have been an inspiration to all of us.
That's very kind of you.
Is there anything you would like to give as a message to our graduating students?
Please, I would implore upon each and every single graduate today that please look at the faces of your parents. They're smiling, they're happy. Don't pull out that smile ever from their face. Let it remain there, radiating and smiling and giving you strength for your life.
Thank you so much for giving us your time, sir.
Thank you. Pleasure is mine.
Aziz, an inspirational personality and a noted visionary of our time, is not only binded to the banking and financial sectors, but is also a teacher at heart. He yearns to see the youth of today taking our country to greater heights. He has penned a number of poems and writings on different topics and is also an avid reader. Mr. Siraj's career is one which has seen growth at an exponential level. He has been the recipient of numerous awards, all highlighting the milestones that he has acquired over the time of his illustrious career. He is a man of many talents and is duly credited for it. Despite being a distinguished banker and having a strenuous schedule, Mr. Aziz is still a dedicated family person. He has always been and remains a man of virtue.
When I got married, we went abroad, we went to Nigeria. His first posting was when I got married. Before that, he has been staying at London, Abu Dhabi. But at Lagos, we had a very good time there. He's a very good husband. और यानी कि we take advantage of it also because he's good. और बस एक शिकायत है because टाइम ज़्यादा नहीं देते ये घर पे और he comes around about 9:30 at times. ज़ाहिर है we hardly because he's very fond of his children. So even though they don't get the time they need, or he's not fond of going out, having food out, just wants to be at home with his children. तो जो कुछ भी है हम लोग छोटी सी फैमिली है. Good.
He is humble, disciplined, and extraordinarily giving. He inspires those he meets with his undiluted humbleness, sincerity, and compassion. He delivers every word he speaks with a dignified thoughtfulness and humble sweetness that leaves his audience overswept with a sense of calm and an urge to listen to more. For his significant contributions to the development of his beloved country's financial sector and for his honorable public service, the degree of Doctor of Financial Management, honoris causa, is being awarded to Mr. Sirajuddin Aziz at the Convocation 2015 of Greenwich University, Pakistan.
कम वक्त मारी नी आ गई तू सैर सपाटे करके। पेट पूजा का कोई बंदोबस्त किया तूने कि नहीं किया है?
क्या हो गया बाजी? एक तो मेरा पेट ਤੁਹਾਡੇ पे भारी पै गया।
नी तेरा पेट तेरी तालीम भी साडे गले उत्ते पै गई है। सारी जिंदगी दर दर नचदी फिरी ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਕਾਲਜਾਂ यूनिवर्सिटियां दी फीसां भरियां ऐ जलालत साडे किस काम दी है?
अरे ना बाजी ना, तू फिक्र ना कर। कल मैंने ऑफिस बुलाया है इंटरव्यू दे वास्ते, दुआ करी।
चल रब राखा। गल सुन, अभी मैंने कुछ खाण वास्ते दे दे।
ठीक है। Hi, I am here for an interview.
What's your name?
Sara.
आप सारा वहीद है?
Yes.
अच्छा, आप रूम नंबर 4 में चले जाए।
ठीक है, थैंक यू। May I come in?
Send Sarah in.
Yes, I am Sara.
Oh, yes, come in.
Assalamu alaikum, Sarah. I'm the managing head of operations of this company, and he is my colleague.
वालेकुम अस्सलाम जी। जी आपसे मिलके बहुत खुशी हुई।
So, Sarah, आप अपने बारे में कुछ बताएं?
जी मैंने बीकॉम किया है।
I'm sorry, पर आप यहाँ क्यों आई हो?
जी मुझे इंटरव्यू के लिए बुलाया गया था।
Yes, but it was clearly mentioned in the job advertisement that a female accountant is required, and you are clearly a.
जी आप प्लीज़ मेरी अपीयरेंस पे ना जाएं। मैं आई थिंक माय कॉमर्स बैकग्राउंड विल मेक मी अ वैल्यूएबल एसेट टू दिस कंपनी।
No, I don't think that you belong here. You may have the skills, but our company is not requires this type of people.
जी आप ये कैसे बोल रहे हैं?
I'm sorry, we are done here. आप जा सकती हैं।
मुझे एक चांस तो दीजिए।
नहीं, please leave.
बाजी, ये बाजी।
मैं मर गई।
बाजी कैसे कर लेती है, कैसे सह लेती है इन सब के ताने?
नहीं दी रानी, हुआ क्या है?
बाजी सारी जिंदगी बस यही सुनने को मिला है, तू यहाँ से चली जा, तेरा यहाँ कोई काम नहीं। आज भी यही हुआ।
ये तो होना ही था। तुझे क्या लगता है मैं क्यों सारी जिंदगी घुंघरू पहन के चल रही थी? तू क्या किताबें लेके फिर रही थी? चल अब रोना बंद कर, पहन ले घुंघरू। शकीला को बोल दूंगी, सिखा देगी तुझे सब।
We urge the governmental and non-governmental organizations, private corporations, and business entities to come forward and play their part in the society by providing respectable earning opportunities to the transgender community to enable them to lead a healthy and happy life.
Choose a job you love, and you will never have to work a day in your life. Our society aims to help you firstly identify your goal and then explore all the paths which will lead you to follow your dream career and enable you to manage and upgrade your skills through various seminars and interactive corporate sessions. Join us now on a fulfilling journey.
जब मेहनत, हिम्मत, जहानत, लियाकत और खिदमत इंसानियत की सिफात इंसानी वजूद में ढल जाएं, तो सरदार मोहम्मद यासीन मलिक का खाका सामने आता है। सरदार यासीन मलिक एक अहद साज और हमा जहद शख्सियत के मालिक हैं। फरोग़ तालीम के लिए अनथक मेहनत, मुस्तहक़ीन की मुसलसल खिदमत और पाकिस्तान की तामीर और तरक्की के लिए खिदमत बा तर्ज इबादत आपकी जिंदगी का नस्बुल ऐन है। सरदार यासीन मलिक 1941 में बर्रे सगीर में पैदा हुए और तक़सीम हिंद के बाद 9 साल की उम्र में पाकिस्तान तशरीफ ले आए। इल्म की शमा से मुआशरे को मुनव्वर करने वाली शख्सियत यासीन मलिक ने अपनी इब्तिदाई तालीम लियारी से हासिल की और बाद अज़ां हुसूल इल्म की गरज से सिंध मदरसतुल इस्लाम और सेंट पैट्रिक कॉलेज से मुंसलिक हुए। यासीन साहब की इब्तिदाई जिंदगी उसरत से इबारत है। वो बिजली की अदम दस्तयाबी के सबब सड़क किनारे आवीज़ा बरक़ी कुमकुमों तले मुताला किया करते और इसी इल्म, दोस्ती, अज़्म हिम्मत, मेहनत लगन और जहद मुसलसल की बदौलत आप कठिन लम्हात और मुश्किल औकात को शिकस्त देकर कामयाबी और कामरानी से सरफराज हुए। सरदार यासीन मलिक जहां मुल्की मईशत को इस्तेहकाम बख्शने में कलीदी किरदार अदा कर रहे हैं, वहीं दुखी इंसानियत की खिदमत और बेसहारा लोगों की मुआवनत के साथ साथ फलाही और रिफाई इदारों से भरपूर ताउन करना इनकी अव्वलीन तरजीहात में शामिल है। बतौर नायब सदर अंजुमन हिलाल अहमर पाकिस्तान, आपने कुदरती आफात से मुतासिरा अफराद की बहाली के लिए जो इक़दामात किए वो यकीनन काबिले सताइश है। सरदार यासीन मलिक ने उबूरी हुकूमत में न सिर्फ सूबाई वजीर बराए मजहबी उमूर खिदमात अंजाम दी, बल्कि अपनी लियाकत और वक़ी तजुर्बे की बदौलत वजीर आज़म पाकिस्तान के मुआविन खुसूसी भी मुकर्रर हुए। बहैसियत डायरेक्टर पाकिस्तान स्टेट ऑयल सरदार साहब की खिदमात को किसी तौर फरामोश नहीं किया जा सकता। दर्स व तदरीस की फरोग व तरवीज और तलबा को जदीद उलूम व फनून से आरास्ता करने के लिए यासीन साहब ने सैकड़ों तालीमी इदारों की माली मुआवनत फरमाई और आज भी मुताद्दिद स्कूलों, कॉलेजों और जामियात की सरपरस्ती के फराइज अंजाम दे रहे हैं। यासीन साहब को इनकी गिरा कद्र समाजी खिदमात के एवज हुकूमत पाकिस्तान की जानिब से हिलाल इम्तियाज और सितारे इम्तियाज अता किए गए। अवामुन्नास की बेपनाह फलाह व बहबूद के एतराफ में इन्हें साल 2004 में मुल्क का बेहतरीन आदमी करार दिया गया।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू।
Sir, as you have known Mr. Sardar Yasin Malik for a very long time, and we are awarding him with an honorary doctorate degree. Is there anything you would like to say about his personality?
Sardar Sahab is a very interesting and impressive personality. He is a man of many qualities. Most among them, or most foremost among them, is that he is a very humane person, always considerate for others. And interestingly, we met regarding public service to do with the setting up of public toilets. And he was forthright in helping establish a chain. Then whether it had to do with medical treatment, educational stipends, other marriages and other needs of people, he was always forthcoming, ever ready to help. Now, these are qualities that are, mashallah, needed and dear to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I think it is something that leaves a deep mark on society.
What do you think is the one thing that has made Mr. Yasin Malik achieve all the milestones that he has achieved?
Of course, everything is with the blessings of Almighty Allah, but it is his hard work, his sincerity, his vision, and like I said, his concern for others. And I'm glad that you recognized his services to society and are awarding him with this degree. I wish you and Sardar Sahab the best. May Allah bless you all.
السلام سر آپ کا تعلق سردار یاسین ملک سے بہت پرانا اور گہرا رہا ہے. کیا آپ ان کے بارے میں اپنے خیالات کا اظہار کرنا چاہیں گے؟
جی بالکل. جب آپ نے سردار یاسین ملک کے بارے میں پوچھا تو یقین ان کا نام سنتے ہی فرشتہ قتلت انسان کی یاد آ جاتی ہے. آپ کو یاد ہوگا, پڑھا ہوگا آپ نے کبھی کہ نور جہاں نے کشمیر کے بارے میں کہا تھا کہ اگر فردوس بر روئے زمین است ہمی است تو ہمی است تو ہمی است. تو میں یہ کہوں گا کہ اگر زمین پر کوئی فرشتہ موجود ہے تو وہ سردار یاسین ملک ہیں. ان کو آپ دیکھیے, چلتے پھرتے فرشتہ ہیں, نہایت خوش مزاج, نہایت نرم گو, نہایت انجومنگ, کسی قسم کا تصنع نہیں ہے ان کی باتوں میں یا ان کے رہن سہن میں. یہ وہ چیزیں ہیں کہ جو ان کو سب سے نمایاں کرتی ہیں.
پاکستان از اے لینڈ آف اپارچونیٹی. یہاں بہت کچھ ہے. تنہا کام کرنے کی کوشش نہ کریں, بلکہ اس میں اپنے کاروبار کے لیے, اپنے کیریئر کے لیے کوشش کریں کہ دیانتدار لوگ آپ ڈھونڈیں. گریجویشن میں تھے تو ہمارے ساتھ محمد صدیق شیخ ہمارے کلاس میں پڑھتے تھے. ان کا کیمیکل کا کام تھا, جہاں سے میرے کیریئر شروع ہوا کاروبار کا. میں وہاں پر ایز اے سیلز مین کام کرتا تھا کالج کے ٹائم کے بعد میں. تو 1% کمیشن ملتی تھی مجھے, اور مجھے اکنالج کرنا چاہیے محمد صدیق شیخ کو. انہوں نے مجھے بہت آگے بڑھایا اور الٹیمیٹلی اینڈڈ اپ واٹ آئی ایم ٹوڈے. مصطفیٰ کمال پاشا پریکٹیکل لائف میں ہی واز مائی گائیڈ, اور آف کورس حضور اکرم صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم میری زندگی میں پہلے نمبر پہ آتے ہیں. ماں کا ذکر ہے تو میری ماں کی دعا میرا خیال ہے کہ بہت ضروری ہے. بہرحال مائی فادر ہیز بین 105 ایئرس اولڈ. مجھے نہیں معلوم کہ میں نے کبھی اپنے بڑے بھائی کے سامنے یا اپنے والد کے سامنے کبھی اونچی آواز میں بات کی ہو.
سردار یاسین ملک پاکستان اور اقوام عالم کے درمیان بہتر تجارتی تعلقات کے فروغ میں بھی اہم کردار ادا کر رہے ہیں. شعبہ تعلیم کی بہتری اور معیشت کی بحالی کے ساتھ ساتھ یاسین صاحب نے اپنی زندگی دوسروں کا معیار زندگی بلند کرنے اور عوام الناس کو راحت پہنچانے کے لیے وقف کر دی ہے. گرینوچ یونیورسٹی سردار یاسین ملک کو ان کی گراں قدر خدمات کے عوض اعزازی ڈاکٹریٹ کی سند تفویض کرتی ہے.
My name is Zohair Aslam, and I'm one of the alumni of Greenwich University. Currently, I'm the Group Director of HROC Group, which is a Malaysian-based HR business solutions organization, which started off from Karachi and later on expanded to Malaysia. At this point in time, this is one of the leading company which is helping other organizations to have a proper setup in Pakistan with having all resources available. Wherever I am today, it's probably because of what I was taught back then when I was at Greenwich University, and I'm quite thankful to my faculty and my Vice Chancellor and everybody who was a part of the Greenwich University. They put in all their effort to ensure that they shape out an ordinary person into somebody who can bring in a change into the society. So I have represented myself at a lot of places, on international forums, local forums, and everywhere. I've mentioned very proudly that I am not a foreign graduate from any university of Harvard, but I'm actually a graduate of Greenwich University, and I'm quite thankful to it. So thank you, Greenwich, for shaping me out. Looking forward to having more forever.
जन्नत रसूल की और दोज़ख में कैसे जाएगी ये उम्मत रसूल की। भर दो झोली भर दो झोली भर दो झोली, तुम्हारे आसान से ज़माना क्या नहीं पाता, तुम्हारे आसान से ज़माना क्या नहीं पाता।
Chief Executive Officer of the GFS Builders and Developers, Mr. Irfan Wahed, is a renowned name in Pakistan's real estate sector. Mr. Irfan Wahed graduated in Business Administration from Greenwich University and went on to prove his mettle at the University of Washington, where he completed his MBA. He also received certificates in real estate from the prestigious London School of Economics. He has held several business management, supervision, and executive positions in the UK and USA for over 6 years. An enthusiast for sustainable foundations, he specializes in architectural design innovation and superior craftsmanship. His recent endeavors include building the Seven Wonders City in Karachi and Islamabad.
GFS का विजन ये है कि हम क्वालिटी हाउसिंग प्रोवाइड करें उन लोअर मिडिल क्लास और मिडिल क्लास लोगों के लिए जिनके लिए एक क्वालिटी लिविंग एक ड्रीम है.
Mr. Wahed co-chairs the Maiman Supreme Council and is actively involved with Association of Builders and Developers Pakistan.
We are very proud. आज हम ये कहना मैं पसंद करूँगा कि इन लोगों का विजन जो था और इन लोगों की जो बनाई हुई चीज़ें थी वो इतनी मजबूत थी, इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग उन्होंने बिल्ड किया हमारे जैसे लोगों के ऊपर, हमारे जैसे स्टूडेंट्स के ऊपर कि दे flourished in their careers and in their practical life.
अच्छा बिजनेसमैन, अच्छा एंटरप्रेन्योर बनने से पहले आपको अच्छा इंसान होना ज़रूरी है और अच्छा इंसान होने के लिए टीम वर्क की, हार्ड वर्क की एज वेल एज लीडरशिप स्किल, इन सारी चीज़ों में आई थिंक इरफान वाहिद हैज़ 10 out of 10.
कराची पे जब कोई मुश्किल वक्त आया है, मैं समझता हूँ यहाँ पर बिल्डर्स की कमी है, लेकिन इरफान वाहिद साहब ने पाकिस्तान पे जब कोई मुश्किल घड़ी आई आगे बढ़कर पाकिस्तान के बेटे होने का सबूत दिया है और इनकी इसी खिदमत की वजह से हम बड़े फख्र से कहते हैं कि इरफान वाहिद साहब पाकिस्तान के बेटे हैं.
मैंने स्ट्रगल करता हुआ देखा है, इसके बहुत अच्छे, इसके अंदर फेथ है, बहुत मेहनती बहुत है, हार्ड वर्किंग बहुत है, ही इज़ ऑनेस्ट, ही हैज़ गॉट इंटीग्रिटी, ये कमिटमेंट का पक्का है, ये कभी अपनी कमिटमेंट से पीछे नहीं हटता है, कुछ भी हो जाए कैसे भी हो जाए वो अपना कमिटमेंट पूरा करने की कोशिश करता है.
Mr. Irfan Wahed is also involved in several social initiatives, including the launch of Korangi's first community park and collaboration with Shahid Afridi Foundation. In recognition of his achievement, Greenwich University presents him with Alumni Excellence Award 2022.
The Greenwich Global Program gives students an opportunity to study in over 5 continents with universities like the University of Bangor, the University of Hertfordshire, the University of Leeds in the UK, with universities such as the University of Murdoch in Australia and the University of Sigmund Freud in Austria, just to name a few of our partner universities. The 2+2 program gives students the access to study at Greenwich University for the first 2 years and then move on to any of our partner universities around the world and carry on with global careers anywhere around the world.
Hello, my name is Akib Sayed. I am currently the Group GM Marketing for Multinet Pakistan Limited. I am a very proud alumnus of Greenwich University. Greenwich was a great experience in overall shaping my personality in the corporate world, and I thank you everyone at Greenwich and the current students and wish them a lot of success. Thank you so much.
So welcome to session of the High-Level Political Forum. We need to rethink the idea of governance by placing SDG 16 at its center. Institutional and policy innovations at local, national, regional, and international levels can accelerate the implementation of SDG 16 and promote integrated whole of society approaches. This is essential in order to tackle complex challenges such as increasing inequalities, social and economic insecurity, climate change, and rapid technological disruption.
As the pandemic continues to rage, public service institutions in conflict-affected countries have been tested in their capacity to mount a coordinated response. Slow, ineffective, or unfairly distributed responses have fueled simmering discontent and distrust in the state and undermined social cohesion and economic resilience. Renewing the social contract, strengthening the rule of law, democratic institutions, and rebuilding trust between people and governments has emerged as key to making progress on the SDGs.
The poor and vulnerable are more exposed to its impact and face more difficulties in adjusting to the new normal. We therefore need to ensure that our responses are well targeted and effectively reach the poor and vulnerable. For this, accountable governance is the key.
Уважаемая госпожа модератор, мы хотели бы сделать короткую ремарку по теме цели устойчивого развития.
We'd like to make a statement on SDG 3. The Russian scientists have already developed 4 vaccines for COVID on their relevant technical platforms. The first of them, Sputnik V, has now being used in 60 countries, being used by more than 1.5 billion people. We are ready for future cooperation with other partners in the future to put an end to the COVID-19 pandemic and to ensure efforts are made to achieve SDG 3.
Bonjour, permettez-moi de m'exprimer en français. Monsieur le...
Myself in French, if I may. Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a spectacular impact of the world's efforts to reduce poverty. It also provides us with an opportunity to build a better future. The context of SDGs is key in terms of inclusive and sustainable development. These partnerships should include governments at all levels, civil society, the university world, multilateral organizations, and companies and civil society. We also would call for an approach based on human rights to build more peaceful, fair, and inclusive societies while ensuring that no one is left behind.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. We believe that SDG 17 is of particular importance following the pandemic because it is this SDG on international partnerships, and today, in fact, it's Well, we do hope that it's the SDG after the pandemic.
We live in strange and unpredictable times. Times when the threat of a pandemic and restrictive measures imposed by those in charge has made peaceful assembly even harder than before. Times when inclusive and transformative efforts to counter deep-rooted inequalities are essential. In this decade of action, Sweden remains a dedicated ally in the pursuit of peace, at home and throughout the world.
The EU has recently also taken steps for the integration of fighting the inequalities in its development cooperation. Promoting and upholding the rule of law is a major priority for the EU internally and externally. The COVID-19 pandemic has set back progress on governance. In its external action, the EU will continue to support progress on democratic governance, rule of law, justice reform, and more effective taxation.
Peace, progress, and sustainability are built on the foundation of justice. Nepal's constitution has internalized such ethos and institutionalized the peace process and political transformation.
And I'd like to start with one that was made by Ambassador Idris on the need to think of a new social contract to prevent what he called simmering discontents. And this, I think, is a crucial issue that has come out of the pandemic. It not only has caused immediate suffering, but it has exposed inequalities and exclusion that were in existence beforehand, but not so visible. And that has great risk of grievance and of, in the end, the rise of social unrest. So this social contract, I think it will be important, of course, that it covers all the SDGs. The SDGs are the best medicine, but with particular emphasis on leaving no one behind.
Trying to use the leverage and influence of the international community in order to build national fiscal capacities rather than inadvertently undermining them. I mentioned two ways in which I would say those capacities, alas, have been undermined in the past. One, the relentless ideological pursuit of free trade, even when that has meant reducing or eliminating tariffs on luxury goods. And secondly, via deeply entrenched resistance of members of the international community to setting a good example by paying taxes and tariffs themselves when they are in host developing countries. And lastly, even if we mobilize resources and have effective governance, the question, of course, is governance for whom? And there, I think, the principle that's come out very clearly in the COVID crisis and will come out again in the climate crisis, that we need to have equal rights to health and to a safe environment. Principles that, by the way, are deeply embedded in national constitutions around the world need to be upheld and fought for. It's not enough just to have them in constitutions. They have to be more than words written on paper.
Corruption has diverted funds from investment in healthcare. Where corruption is systematic, governments tend to spend less on healthcare, thus increasing inequalities among societies, but also among countries. As the UN Secretary General pointed out, we're facing the same storm, but we are not in the same boat. In the midst of the campaign for a decade of accountability for the SDGs, we at the Contraloría, the Chilean Supreme Audit Institution, are committed to doing our part.
At the same time, the crisis has shown us that institutions that are ensuring transparency and accountability have become more important than ever. Supreme audit institutions can carry out audits at all levels of government. They have the essential task of assessing how taxpayers' money is used and whether the measures taken are transparent, sustainable, and inclusive.
COVID-19 has exacerbated our systemic vulnerabilities to crises and exposed the failure of macroeconomic governance, as 40 out of 43 countries are experiencing an unprecedented increase in debt-to-GDP ratio in the Asia-Pacific alone. Yet, business as usual continues, as almost 96% of the support provided by multilateral banks and international financial institutions to Asia-Pacific countries in 2020 are loans, with meager amounts in grants or debt relief. On the other hand, inequalities have been on the rise. Less than 1% of the region's 4.6 billion population is worth almost 54 times more than the combined GDPs of Asia-Pacific's least developed countries, further widened by the pandemic. So rather than pushing the poorest countries for economic self-reliance, financing for development processes should help them address corporate capture, debt distress, illicit financial flows, tax evasions, and neoliberal instruments like investor-state dispute settlement. The very lesson from COVID-19 is to strengthen public healthcare systems, enfeebled by massive privatizations. And yet, almost 76 out of 91 IMF negotiated loans in 2020 pushed for further belt tightening that could result in deep cuts to public healthcare and social protection systems. Such systemic issues have escalated health crises into economic, social, and environmental crises. As a result, decades of progress on poverty, hunger, health and education, gender, water and sanitation, inequalities, climate action, and stronger institutions is being reversed. The transformative new social contract requires urgent action to redress inequalities within and among countries, reconfigure power relations across socio-economic and political spheres, dismantle neoliberal capitalism, democratize governance, and ensure climate justice.
COVID-19 has intensified the need for accelerated, united action in light of the devastating toll the pandemic is taking on global health, social and environmental security, and progress on Agenda 2030. Interlinked challenges such as COVID-19, climate change, diminished biodiversity, and continuing crises rooted in economic, judicial, and human rights inequalities inform our call for accelerated action. While some people have access to healthcare, medicines, and vaccines, too many suffer without recourse. While human rights abuses go unpunished and access to justice remains the domain of the few, societies will not know peace and inclusion. These are well-worn truths. But civil society plays a pivotal role in advocating for healthy lives and well-being, reversing widening inequality, and promoting a peaceful, inclusive world.
There is broad agreement among governments that we need new global tax rules, but we still don't have an inclusive body where those rules can be negotiated. Instead, decision-making on global tax rules is being led by the G7, the G20, the OECD, which is also known as the Rich Countries Club. This is resulting in rules that do not reflect the interest of the world's poorest countries, but also in rules that do not effectively ensure that the world's wealthiest corporations and individuals pay their share of taxes and do not represent a global consensus.
When it comes to international negotiations, we as UN youth representatives experience many hurdles in our advocacy and negotiation efforts. Young people are described as active agents of peace, which means that equal treatment and representation should occur. We want to change the narrative from passive stakeholders to active shareholders. This is why we are also working on the establishment of a framework for the youth in order to participate as equals in negotiations. This notion was agreed upon by all member states in SDG 16, and this so-called generational test will be our main tool to translate that notion into practice. In conclusion, by the words of the former Secretary General Kofi Annan, we are never too young to lead and you are never too old to learn.
This youth-led campaign pleads the UN member states to request an advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice and the linkage between climate change and human rights, as well as the integration of the concept of intergenerational justice.
International governance, standards and rules for trade, investments, taxation, and financial flows must underpin national efforts to achieve more equal and inclusive societies.
6 years into the implementation of the 2030 Agenda, the international community is still off track on achieving SDG 16+, and we've unfortunately seen further stagnation and even serious backsliding of progress, even before the COVID-19 crisis. Civic space is shrinking, human rights abuses are on the rise, faith and trust in institutions is waning, conflict and fragility is deepening, and inequalities are widening, leading to blossoming protest movements in many countries where people still feel left behind.
We need to continue to seek cooperative approach to shared challenges, not only to be better prepared and to create resilience for future shocks and crises, but also to reinforce trust and strengthen security for all.
As we continue to relentlessly encroach on nature and degrade ecosystems, we endanger human health. We need to rethink our relationship with nature and build back better. It has been recognized that business as usual is no longer an option. We need to rethink the way we generate wealth, the way we live, produce, consume, move, and eat. We must shift to a new paradigm of resource use that is socially equitable, economically resilient, and environmentally healthy. Research by UNEP International Resource Panel proves that it is possible.
Muchas gracias. Saludo a todos los.
Very much. And greetings to all the participants in this important political forum. The indigenous peoples have indicated that the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development and the SDGs provide us with a historical and unique opportunity to ensure that the more than 370 million indigenous people in at least 90 countries are not left behind. And yet, we continue to be victims of serious violations of human rights.
Access to justice for all persons with disability who have experienced gender-based violence during the pandemic by guarantee accessibility and reasonable accommodation in the judicial process.
So this meeting is adjourned, and thank you very much again to all of you for your active participation.
Dr. S.M. Munir is a dynamic personality with diverse experience in various sectors, including tanneries, textiles, and banking. He is the chairman, Dean Textile Mills Limited, and director, Dean Pharma Products Limited. He is a consummate industrialist and was awarded with the Best Export Performance Trophy by the Federation of Pakistan Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Gold Medallion Award from the International Export Association, United Kingdom. Dr. S.M. Munir was awarded Ambassador of Hope by the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Imran Khan, on 15th January 2021. Dr. S.M. Munir was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award by the President of Pakistan in 2012. He was also awarded Sitara-e-Isar and Sitara-e-Imtiaz in 2006 and 2007 respectively by the President of Pakistan in recognition of his outstanding public services for the cause of humanity. His contributions and achievements go beyond the economic sphere into the education sector as well. Greenwich University bestowed upon him the honoris causa degree in recognition of his tremendous services for the business sector.
मैं तमाम जितने पेरेंट्स हैं जो बच्चे आज ग्रेजुएट हो रहे हैं उनको मुबारकबाद देता हूँ। तमाम पेरेंट्स को यकीन दिलाता हूँ कि ग्रीनविच यूनिवर्सिटी में पढ़े हुए बच्चे आपके लिए एसेट साबित होंगे। ये आगे जाके अच्छे काम करेंगे, आपका भी नाम रोशन करेंगे और अपने मुल्क का नाम भी रोशन करेंगे। एक चीज़ और भी मैं कहना चाहता हूँ अपने स्टूडेंट्स को कि वालिदैन की इज़्ज़त करें, जो वालिदैन मशवरा दें उस पर अमल करें, कि बड़ों का तजर्बा हमारे से बहुत ज़्यादा होता है। हम समझते हैं आप बहुत समझदार हो गए, नहीं, टाइम लगता है, एवरीथिंग टेक्स टाइम। तो आप अपने वालिदैन की इज़्ज़त करें, उनकी बात सुने, उनकी पीस ऑफ एडवाइस को हुक्म मानें।
My name is Ishan Shah. I'm a proud alumni of Greenwich University, batch of 95. I was Dean's List here as well, apparently, and yeah, it's been great. The memories are tremendous. It's great to see everybody out here as we celebrate all these years. I'm basically from the banking profession and I'm part of the media and broadcasting, and all of that combined, it's been a fabulous, fantastic experience to be part of this institution. I wish you all well and hope that we meet again. Take care and have a great day.
Mr. Ali Jilani, he's a development practitioner focused on democratization of state and society in Pakistan with over 10 years of advocacy at the national, regional, and global level. He has expertise in capacity building, advocacy, and research for governance reforms concerning access to justice, political, economical equality, human rights, social development, and environmental protection. He currently serves with the Karachi Research Chair, a policy think tank driven for evidence-based advocacy around sustainable development. Mr. Tilani, the floor is yours.
Thank you, moderator, and APRSEM for the opportunity. The decade of action and delivery for sustainable development can only be realized if systemic barriers like global inequalities of wealth, power, and resources, international economic trade and monetary frameworks, militarism and conflict, patriarchal authoritarianism, marginalizing governance, shrinking democratic spaces, as well as a guilt-free pass on means of implementation commitments are addressed. The unprecedented COVID-19 crisis has reinforced the need to address such vulnerabilities caused by neoliberal globalization and flawed macroeconomic governance. ODA is falling short of its commitment of 0.7% of GNI, evident of the fact that only 6 countries could meet their ODA targets in 2017, with the overall contribution amounting to $147.2 billion against the required investment of US $5 to $7 trillion to achieve the SDGs. On the flip side, wealth and resources continue to flow from developing countries through illicit financial flows, tax evasions, capital flows, asset stealth, trade mispricing, and profit shifting by multinational corporations, where the data shows that the developing economies lost over 7.8 trillion between 2004 and 2013, with the outflows increasing at 6.5% every year, twice as fast as the global GDP. The terms of discussion around official development assistance need to change from an act of benevolence to that of responsibility for global north, reckoning the historical debt owed to the developing world after centuries of colonial plunder and its continued patterns through neo-imperial neoliberal tactics. People of the Asia-Pacific reject official development assistance used to catalyze private sector engagement, achieve trade, military, and political objectives of donor countries, and its substitution with climate financing, refugee costs, or debt cancellation as recently proposed by the Development Assistance Committee. ODA needs to be reformed, reviewed for impact, and held accountable for failure to deliver on the commitments rather than being reduced to buzzworded negotiation outcomes going 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Debt stress is another key challenge exacerbated by COVID-19, where increased debt financing along with economic downturn will lead to higher government debt to GDP ratio expected to rise to 49% in 2021 among the least developing countries, while the pandemic generally affecting a much larger group of 40 out of 43 countries in the Asia Pacific. Reiterating the Secretary General's appeal reckoning COVID-19 situation, we cannot resort to the usual tools in such unusual times, so we need strong multilateral commitments to address debt distress, having pushed poor countries into generational debt traps, leaving virtually no fiscal space for effective COVID recovery or sustainable development priorities. Trade as a critical MOI need to be democratized through structural reforms prioritizing people and the planet over profits, upholding the essence and multidimensionality of the Agenda 2030, safeguarding state policy space. Localization of SDGs shouldn't mean the absence of accountability mechanism at the global level. To ensure the establishment of global reform entities for SDGs compatibility impact assessment of taxation architecture, trade and investment agreements, and synergizing multilateral cooperation to avoid corporatocratization of the globe. Rather than pushing the poorest countries for economic self-reliance, the processes should help them address macroeconomic pressures embodied in hegemonic trade agreements through conditions of market deregulation, massive privatizations, corporate capture of resources and governance, and neoliberal instruments like ISDS, among others. In terms of technology, the corporate control of data as the raw material for the fourth industrial revolution and concentration of technological innovation in the hands of a few technology giants must not be allowed to compromise privacy, hinder technology transfer, impede the capacity of developing countries to develop their technological capacity, marginalize human workforce, or undermine local knowledge systems. Policy emphasis on digitization and technological advancement must ensure a civil society-led thorough review of the potential adverse effects on the environment, the social, cultural, economic, civic, and political rights of the people. Our decade of action demands the dismantling of neoliberal development framework that destroys the environment, starves people of resources, and strips them of rights, and criminalizes those who stand for justice. The people of the Asia Pacific demand development justice. If the Agenda 2030 is to be endorsed as the global social contract between people and governments of the world, it's high time they walk the talk. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Jelani, for those very cogent comments. I'm sure that the participants have taken note of them and will bring them up in the breakout discussions.
We would like to introduce you with a student of Greenwich University, Ibad Mahmood. He has completed his BBA Marketing and currently completing his MBA in Supply Chain Management. Nigat Welfare Trust was started on 1st February 2014 on his beloved mother's name as she is no more in this world. Nigat Welfare Trust is a non-profit organization. Nigat Welfare Trust wants to work for the betterment of society by providing individuals with basic necessities of life and free medical facilities. Along with studies, Ibad is passionate about serving humanity and is the managing director of Nigat Welfare Trust.
Certified Deloitte faculty member and business advisor, Mr. Sufyan Yousfi is a partner and head at one of the world's topmost consulting firms, Deloitte, where he serves as a lead business partner for NASA, an international development organization. Mr. Yousfi graduated from Greenwich University and went on to prove his mettle at Carnegie Mellon University, where he also served as a lead recruiting partner and a board member. Mr. Yousfi has been a part of Deloitte's commercial practice in New York City, serving multiple Wall Street financial service clients, large banks, private equity firms, and hedge funds. At present, he oversees multi-dimensional teams tasked with operational resilience, internal controls, cost optimization, trust and transparency programs. His client services include advanced machine learning, artificial intelligence, data analytic capabilities, and managing large-scale operational transformation programs. He has also published in Respond, Recover, Thrive, amongst other digital media platforms.
Sufyan is one of the most engaging young men that I've had the pleasure of teaching here at Carnegie Mellon. I met him 6 years ago, and we've become friends, and that has broadened my perspective more than it has his.
I'm glad, and looking at Sufyan, it makes me even more confident to say that